What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Autodesk Construction Cloud for civil and infrastructure contractors. My name is Keenan Bruni, and I'm a technical solutions executive with Autodesk, meaning I show people software mostly. I'll be joined by my colleague Kevin White, who is also a TSC, who has many years of civil contracting experience on the East Coast. I myself worked at a GC for many years on the West Coast, and together we are going to join forces and show you how the system works specifically for civil and infrastructure contractors. Today we'll be going over the ins and outs of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, specifically Autodesk Build, which is our project management and document control tool. It can be used in the office, on your computers. It can be used on site with iPads and iPhones. And we'll be looking at how you can manage drawings in the Sheets tool, issue creation, form management, photos, RFIs, schedules, PDF markups, submittals, change orders, and how we can operate really well with CAD and Civil 3D files. I'm going to start us off with the Sheets tool here. I'll hand it off to Kevin to take the bulk of these on, and then I'll wrap us up with the Civil 3D and CAD operability at the end. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it here. And if you've never seen this before, we are in Autodesk Build, again, document control, project management, action items, that kind of a thing. And we're in a project called Bridgeview Boulevard. So this would be a bridge project with a highway component. You can load up all kinds of different projects in here. And this is just one of them. Sheets, this is usually the first stop for most folks using this software, and that's bringing in your drawings, what you're building. You'll see I have this organized a bit. So I have a bridge set and a highway set. And then you'll see the actual drawings themselves in here, as well as what version they're on, the discipline associated with the drawings. You would be able to search these, filter them down by version, by discipline. You can search, it'll pull out content if it's a vector PDF. And if I click on this set, you'll see this drawing here has a 2 next to it. That means there's 2 versions. Version control is a really big part of a software like this, meaning if you are doing it manual today, like dragging and dropping folders and sending emails out when drawings have been changed and hoping people are building off the right stuff, this is going to automate a lot of that. So if I click on this here, it'll pull open this plan. And on the top left side, you'll see the name of the drawing and in parentheses, the version of the drawing. If I click on it, you can see we can go back one to the original drawing, and it's going to tell us, hey, this is not current. There's a newer version of this drawing. Hopefully you don't build off this. We're trying our best to make sure it's front and center what the actual stuff is on top, the latest drawings. And you'll see a bunch of stuff on this set here. I'm going to hand it off to Kevin, and he's going to show you about what some of these functions are directly on the plans. Take it away, Kevin.
Hi, everybody. Today I want to walk you through a workflow in the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and it's something that actually happened to me in my time working for a civil contractor as a project manager. I just want to show how I might have captured that issue in the Autodesk Construction Cloud in Autodesk Build, and how I would have hopefully taken it from when it was first identified all the way to its successful resolution using the tools available to me here. So I'm going to go ahead and start in the Sheets module, and I'm going to go to the drawing where the conception of this issue actually lives. And this is going to be the drawing. Now, something that we're not going to cover right now is the genesis of this issue, which did happen on the mobile device from the job site.
Actually, folks, we are going to go ahead and show the creation of an issue from the mobile device because it's so easy to show. I'm here on my iPad. This could also be an Android or an iPhone. And we're looking at a drawing, the same drawing that Kevin had on the screen moments ago. I'm going to go ahead and grab this check mark tool here on the right. And this is our issues tool. So we can use this to track action items, essentially. For example, if I wanted to go ahead and click this unforeseen condition button, you can go ahead and tag it on the plans. I'll say there was a gas line detected. I can go ahead and say, hey, somebody needs to do something about this. I'm going to assign it to someone, and I will give it a due date of a few days from now. We can add all kinds of information. You'll see here I have these questions that it's asking. That's custom. You can customize these if you need to. Add photos to them. bring in other kinds of files for reference. The idea is we are tracking action items, and then we can go ahead and do something with those action items. And that's what Kevin is going to show. Take it away, Kevin.
So the idea is that a superintendent, who in this case is working on an excavation task inside of a cofferdam, inside a supportive excavation system, or SOE for short. While excavating, we identified infiltration of groundwater into the actual hole, into the pit, which is obviously problematic for work. So this is that issue here. Placed on the contract drawings where the cofferdam or where the SOP would have been in place. And everything that we see here, at least from a description standpoint and an assignee standpoint, and even the GPS location and the placement, all these things were captured from the mobile device by, in this case, a superintendent. And that also includes a photo of this condition that was observed, which, as you can see, there was a cofferdam, some SOP sheet piles, and then we have some groundwater infiltrating this excavation. So this is a problem. So what we're going to do from there is jump back to the issue, jump back to the page, and we're now going to put on the hat as the project manager, seeing this issue from the office and deciding where to take it from here. Now, the first thing I would probably do, or something that I did do in this case, was I asked the question to the owner. Hey, we didn't know groundwater was going to be anticipated to this level. We didn't see it in the boring logs. We might as well document our concerns in the form of an RFI and ask for direction where they want to go. Now, naturally, I could do that right from here and create the RFI. Now, in this case already, I've already generated the RFI and I've already linked it. So let's go ahead and look at that RFI. We'll follow the hyperlinks. We'll go to the RFI that was already asked. And we actually already got a response. We had asked for a mitigation plan. How do we handle this groundwater? And the owner basically instructed us to generate and submit our own, which needs to be approved by the local environmental agency. So that's fine. Now we have some direction. We might even have another task or issue now. But what I want to do here is also talk about some of the other links or references I established. Now, I did this in a couple of different ways. Now, in that past example on the real project where this actually happened, this drastically impacted the project schedule. So what I did was I took the RFI and I even took the issue and even some of the other elements that stemmed from this issue, this field condition, I linked them to the appropriate schedule activities. Because this is going to impact, this is going to delay the overall completion of the project. So I made sure that I knew, right, and other project stakeholders knew that these activities could potentially impact an activity like the excavation activity. And this is critical information to know at the end of the job, after lots of issues have transpired. Right? And I have to either defend a claim against liquidated damages, I have to generate my own claim for maybe some extended general conditions, and I need to be able to quantify the impacts to the schedule and which ones I'm responsible for and which ones I'm not responsible for. Establishing these references is going to make that effort, in my opinion, much, much easier. And this was an effort that was very difficult in reality without a comprehensive platform. But I digress. Let me follow the hyperlink. Let me jump back into the RFI and let's talk about what happened next. Now, obviously, we were instructed to generate our own plans. So I actually started doing that in our own files tool. I took another PDF example of the same contract drawing, and I used the simple markup tools available to us in the files tool to generate a very simplified groundwater mitigation layout plan. And we see some of those details here. Layouts of generators and pumps, where the frac tank and the filtration bags are going to go, and then ultimately the discharge point. And then I even generated a link to the T's and C's of this groundwater mitigation plan, right? The specific details of this plan. Easy to navigate, easy to find, easy to access. And again, this corresponds directly with that physical layout plan that we generated here in Autodesk Build. Now, let's jump back to the RFI. And we see these files that were worked on in the files tool. Right down below, submittals. Once these groundwater mitigation plans were finalized on our end, it was time to submit those to the owner and the environmental agency for review. So that's a submittal here. And obviously it hasn't yet been submitted. So we know that we're really not approved to go ahead and proceed with this work. We're still waiting for a response on the groundwater mitigation plan. Now, there's another thing that's going to come of this as well, and that's obviously a cost impact. We talked about the schedule impact, but there's also going to be a cost impact. So what I did right from this existing submittal and also from the issue that was first created, I drafted up the shell of a change order, a PCO. Groundwater was not specifically mentioned, at least in the detail that we encountered it in the original project documents in the initial boring logs. So at some point, I or my subcontractors may want to be compensated for developing this plan, implementing it, and completing the job at additional cost. So even though not much has been done with this PCO yet, we at least have it drafted up, and we're going to have the history, the story behind this change order well documented so that when the time comes, we can be compensated, and we hopefully have a bulletproof case that warrants that compensation. Now, this just all comes back to really the bread and butter of the platform, which is that digital paper trail, which is connecting the dots that tell a story. Now, I want to just bring this all back to the field side of the house, and maybe a superintendent walking back out on site to continue with work. Well, hopefully they'll know that if they want to proceed with excavation or proceed with pumping, right, to resolve this issue they identified some time ago, hopefully it's easy for them to deduce whether or not they're able to do that. And if they are able to do it, what's required for them to proceed. Now, in this case, if I was a superintendent, I would immediately look at this color or immediately look at this issue and say, you know what, it's still being reviewed. It hasn't yet been closed or completed. So maybe there's still something waiting to be approved here. I should go work on something else. Or let's take the example that now this has been completed or this has been approved and closed out. Now, from a superintendent, I need to know what the approved groundwater mitigation tactics are. And again, if I've done my job, if I've established these connections, should be fairly easy for me to find that information. Here in the submittal, it's probably going to be that approved plan, which will be easy to find and easy to look at, along with comments and notes from the reviewing parties. On top of that, in the interest of protecting this change order that I've drafted up, as a superintendent, I may want to document the extra labor and materials associated with this groundwater pumping in the form of a T&M form or some other field-oriented report. And now if I have that, I can fill those out directly from the mobile device. And more importantly, I can make those intelligent. I can make sure that they're associated with the right activities on the project, which in this case, obviously, is going to be for groundwater mitigation. Now from the mobile device, I would take that form that I've generated, I would populate it with the hours, and we're always going to know that this timesheet, this T&M sheet, and the other ones that are being developed on the job site are directly related to that issue that we identified. Hopefully you found this helpful. Thank you very much.
Awesome stuff by Kevin. Hopefully you found a lot of that stuff interesting. One last thing to cover here is how the system can operate with CAD or Civil 3D files. So it's very much an Autodesk thing. We play really nicely with those file types. And there's two ways you can do this. One is starting in a system like Civil 3D and publishing to Autodesk Construction Cloud. And the other would be somebody on site or in the office who just needs to open, view, and maybe mark up those file types. So starting with from Civil 3D or AutoCAD, when you open our tool, and I'm in 2024 here, on the left side of the screen, you'll see Autodesk projects, and then you'll see the list of your projects that are hosted in ACC. This is a great way to publish CAD files, Civil 3D files. It's meant for this. Our Autodesk Cloud tool is made to host these file types. You use other cloud storage solutions, you might have issues with XREFs, version control. This system is made for that. And then once that's published, you'll be able to get the field using this, get the office using this, and that part does not require Civil 3D. And I'll show you what I mean. Back in Autodesk Construction Cloud here, in the Build module, I am looking at some files in our Files tool. So you'll see here I have a folder that says civil engineer, and I've got some files in here, including a contour line drawing. Um, Now let's say this is a project engineer or a project engineer. They don't have Civil 3D or AutoCAD, but they just want to open the file, maybe mark it up a bit. You can do that in here. You don't need to have CAD or Civil 3D licenses. This system will handle DWGs, it'll handle Revit files, it'll handle all kinds of different design file types, and you can work with them. You can't design them, that's what CAD is for, but you can mark them up. You can do as built. You can even do that issue tracking stuff that Kevin was showing earlier directly on a CAD file. So, hope that helps. And I hope you learned something today. Please reach out if you're curious about how you can get on board with Autodesk Construction Cloud. We love working with civil infrastructure customers, and we'd be happy to help y'all. Thanks, everyone.